one of my favorite quotes from C.S. Lewis, I think it's from Magician's Nephew, but he says that what you see depends a lot upon where you're standing. It also depends on who you are. And I think when we come into the wilderness, we carry a lot of who we are with us, and that affects how we see the world.
And it's amazing to me how connected to their friends and phones and iPods and computers and cell phones they are, and how incredibly different they become after a month here.
He feels that's the greatest, apart from my mother and his family, the greatest thing he's ever done with his money and his life.
Experience the wonder of creation in the wilderness and discover what the wild reveals about us on this day of discovery.
Today, as in the past, the noise and busyness of the city can distract us from what really matters. But in the solitude of the wilderness is a silent invitation to unexamined lives.
Only by going alone in silence, without baggage, can one truly get into the heart of the wilderness. All other travel is mere dust, hotels, and chatter.
Some answer the call of the wild for its beauty and adventure. Others come here for what they can leave behind. In the wilderness, the sounds and rhythms change. In the emptiness, the wonder, and the silence, the cycle of distractions can be broken. As we enter the wilderness, we leave behind computers and microwaves, ease of transportation, busy schedules and interruptions, traffic, billboards, electricity, and all of the conveniences and clutter that normally controls our lives and does our thinking for us.
You leave behind a lot of the comforts. If you want to get out into the true wilderness without any facilities, you won't have the big comfy bed. It's liable to get cold, liable to get hot, and you have to adjust to that rather than have your environment adjusted to you.
Steve Mayer is a carpenter who spent 9 months traveling from Maine to Florida to California to Alaska and Colorado. He wanted to experience the wilderness and to follow his interest in photographing nature.
Our national parks generally are made to be accessible for people, and so they do have the roads, and you can get in relative comfort. But if you really wanted to actually get out into wilderness, you really got to leave some of that comfort behind. You got to get out to areas that aren't made for people. I was in the Arctic, in Alaska and in Canada. It's the wildness, it's the untamedness of it, and the bigness of it really made an impression on me.
Rocky McKelvin is a hunting and fishing guide along the Holitna River, 2 hours by small plane from Anchorage, Alaska, and urban life.
And it seems like there's just a incredible fascination with Alaska. Always has been, from Robert Service to the gold fields to the trappers and the miners, and look at all the adventures that come up here. I mean, people come up here to run from something or to find something or to create something, to build something. People go all over the world to catch a 20-40, 20-pound, 40-inch pike. We had a man here one time that had gone to 8 different lodges, Canada, Russia, And he called me up and he said, can I get a 2040? And I go, yeah, you can get a 2040. So he came up, and the first day, he got a hold of a big old pike. The pike was even gray. And caught it, pulled it. It actually pulled the boat around. It was so big. The biggest one we've caught here is 53 inches. Can you imagine? Like this. They're like crocodiles. And so he pulls it in the boat. He sits down. We measured. It's well over 20 pounds. It's well over 40 inches. And he sat and he cried like a baby. Just cried. Wow.
We definitely have a lot of type A executives that are so used to controlling their whole environment and everything that they do. And so when they first get out here, we've had some that have, just wanted to take control, and they want to, they go, well, with the rain, why can't we go out and do this? Why can't we do that? And it just takes them a little while to realize that there's some things they just can't control.
They want fish now. They want moose now. I want my bear now. And all of a sudden, the adventure and the process and the journey doesn't make any more sense. Somehow we've lost that. You can't control the fish or the runs or the bear or the moose or the caribou, and you just enjoy the journey. You can't get out and nobody can get to you, You feel like, okay, I can come here and unwind and relax and maybe not be myself, but more find who I am. The problem with people going out in the woods and finding themselves is most of the time they don't like who they find,
I would say it's getting away from all of the technology. We become so dependent on that to busy ourselves. And there's something about coming out here, you have a chance to really be still and know that there is a God. And we see that quite often. Just even when they're out fishing, and sometimes when they're not even catching, they're just out there fishing.
Just waiting on the Lord is a lost art, and I think that nature restores that. It's quite a river, isn't it?
This is something awesome.
A lot of guys, they'll fish 3 or 4 hours, put the pole down, go back to camp, and just sit by the campfire and talk. Just want to talk. Women say, I can never get my husband to say a word. He won't talk to me at all. I say, hey, put him in a boat. He won't shut up. Talks all day. And we have a man here this week that's taken each of his children when they graduate on any trip they want to. And his son read the book while I'm in Wild Alaska and said, this is where we're going, Dad. And Tom and Tillman are here, the greatest adventure of his lifetime. And here they have 12, 14 hours a day to communicate. Who gets that with their senior high? Yeah. It just doesn't happen. And sometimes. And so I think that it's a great place to reconnect because they are so disconnected from their own world. Gotta be a good fish over there. It looks too good. Ooh. I see a big king in there. When they get here, it's like it's an awe moment. And they get to be restored and refreshed simply by getting away from the busy, hectic workaday schedule and all of the issues that go on in providing and protecting in their environment. And I'm sure in their environment, they're in total control. But out here, no one's in control. You look at Jesus. Every time he wanted to get away, he went to the mountains or a lake, or he went up in the desert, or he went out to a garden. He knew the outdoors was God's clothing, God's care, God's love. And that's the way I look at it.
Sonny McKelvin is one of 4 daughters who spend 6 weeks every summer with their parents, helping at the lodge and serving the guests.
At first, I thought it was a hindrance because I was like, what, no summer, leave all my friends. But I think maybe it was this year when I really realized how much good it's actually done me. It helped me grow as a person. It's given me a work ethic more than anything. And it's taught me a lot about helping other people and having more of a servant's heart.
I've noticed that when my kids come out here every year, we've been part of doing this for 26 years, and so my girls, I have 4 girls, and they don't know anything else but Alaska and working and serving men as they come up here and families, and it's amazing to me how connected to their friends and phones and iPods and computers and cell phones they are, and how incredibly different they become after a month here. They like to talk. They like to sit around in the evening and share something that they're doing or creating or making or painting. They're different girls.
Actually, it really helps you realize what your family is really important. It really sets your standards straight when you come up here.
One family that was renewed and reunited in the Alaskan wilderness was the Hadleys. They needed a fresh start. The family picture wasn't really all smiles when they arrived.
I met a wonderful family last year, and Jim Hadley and Mike and his brother. I went to Russia with Mike, and we had the greatest time. And then years later, he heard that I had a fishing and hunting outfit up here, and so he got his whole family to come. And there was so much tension in the family.
The idea to get away from their busy and separate lives came from John Hadley. He brought all of his sons and grandsons to Alaska. "13 men and boys came together, hoping for some fun and adventure. But what they got was a lot more."
Rocky, he calls Alaska and the other Bible, because you can see God, You can really see God up there, that's for sure. The boys, being with my boys too, I'd never been anywhere where you could really just be with the boys, and the camaraderie and the closeness, and you get to see the Lord everywhere and everything that happened up there.
John, and especially his son Mike, weren't sure what to expect when they agreed to trade their comforts for the wild.
It's more like, am I going to get eaten by mosquitoes? Are we going to survive this? Is anyone going to drown? Is there going to be bears? And we're coming out of the city and going into the wild. It's not like just going up to Tahoe. It was like, it's real wild. There's no one you can call if there's a problem. So I think that there was an anticipation, but a nervous anticipation.
Mike and his son Nate had a rocky relationship, much of it related to Mike's divorce. And Mike knew that his son was really struggling.
I looked forward to that when I knew that he said yes to going, and I go, hey, I'm going to be up there for a week with my son, and our relationship was strained, to say the least. We were cordial with each other, but didn't see each other much, and a lot of struggles from our past, a divorce, just struggles. He was in a desert, and I was in a desert because he was in a desert.
Really, up until the last year when we were here for a week, I had a really rocky relationship with my father for a long time.
Right away it was, here I am with my son, and so we kind of just stuck to group stuff, but we were alone in a cabin, me and him and my other son Caleb, so there was no hiding that there was going to be something happen in this relationship. Just the question was what. Last night I couldn't get him to go to bed. He's 23 years old. I'm like, come to bed, son, come to bed. It's about 2 in the morning. Of course, it's still light up there. I says, well, what's the matter? Why don't you go to bed? And so I sat up and talked, and he said, Dad, he goes, I don't want this to end. He said, for 2 years I've been sitting around thinking I'm nothing. that I'm a nobody. And I've come up here and I've seen God in creation and in our family experience, and I know that God is real, and I know that I'm not nothing. And he knew the Lord, but he was in a desert, and getting up there reminded him that no matter how work's going or your life is going or your family is going, that God loves you.
There's just so many things that get in the way of living the way that God intended us to live. And up here, there's none of that. You can grow so much closer to him, and you can really become a lot better person, really. It's amazing just like what 1 week out here did for me and him personally. So it's so much better now, and it really, really did all stem from this.
I got to actually just watch God heal my life in a way that I don't get any credit for, you know. He just did it, you know, and my son's relationship and mine is, I love you and I love you too, Dad. You know, it's back to that. And it had been, 6 years of not hearing that and dealing with that, so.
Well, they fell in love with the outdoors, and they were great fishermen and outdoorsmen. And they fell in love with the Creator, and they also fell in love with each other again. Changed the whole family. I mean, the whole family dynamic is unbelievable.
My dad says it's the greatest thing he's ever done. And he's, 70 years old, and has been nothing but a giving, loving father and Christian man. And he feels that's the greatest, apart from my mother and his family, the greatest thing he's ever done with his money and his life. That's pretty powerful from my father.
The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day after day they pour forth speech. Night after night they display knowledge. There is no speech or language where their voice is not heard. Psalm 19.
I've known people that have worked at the entrance to Yosemite, and people drive up and they're in a hurry and they say, well, what is there to do here, really? You got a good golf course, you got tennis courts, you got a skating rink, anything really to do here? And when we bring that mindset, we're not going to see anything. I think the figure is that 90% of the people that visit Yosemite and perhaps our other national parks never actually leave their cars, except perhaps to walk into a visitor center or use the facilities, dive into a carpinteria. So it's called a windshield experience.
Every summer, Paul Willis, professor at Westmont College in Santa Barbara, California, takes his students on a 12-day hike in Yosemite National Park. He has the group read the writings of John Muir and the Bible. As they do, they experience together the spirituality and rhythm of the wilderness, apart from city life.
Most people are on the world, not in it, have no conscious sympathy or relationship to anything about them, undiffused, separate, and rigidly alone, like marbles of polished stone, touching but separate. A lot of the wilderness we have in California and our national parks, and indeed the whole nation, are there partly because of the work and the writing of a man named John Muir, who lived mostly in the 19th century. Muir set out on a walk from Indiana to Florida, 1,000 miles as a young man, right after the Civil War. People asked him what he was doing. It seemed an odd thing to do. And he said, well, I'm just following the teaching of Christ. I'm considering the lilies, as Christ asked us to in the Sermon on the Mount. So he knew his scripture, he was good at twisting it a little bit, and yet John Muir has helped focus our attention on the natural world. which he regarded as God's world in some sense, in a way that few writers or thinkers ever have.
There is a love of wild nature in everybody, an ancient mother love ever showing itself, whether recognized or no, and however covered by cares and duties.
I guess when I think about reading John Muir, I think of what Augustine said, that all truth is God's truth, wherever it may be found. And I think Muir pushes us towards a truth of looking to, living in the creation in a way we might not tend to do in these times.
So part of coming to know God better is having ourselves broken down to a point where we can see things clearly. And the wilderness does that by chipping away at the parts of ourselves that we build up for the benefit of other people to look a certain way or to act a certain way. And coming out here really just breaks down those walls and helps us to become a person who can see.
You know, you can go on a hike and you can just be walking, like getting from point A to point B and, you know, looking at the view and walking back down. But I think the more time you spend in nature and the more you learn to look around and to like look at the details, like really how everything is working together and how everything is designed.
If you come out into the wilderness with too much and you're here for selfish reasons or in a way that's not pleasing to God, you can totally miss who God is and how He's revealed Himself in creation.
Walk away quietly in any direction and taste the freedom of the mountaineer. Camp out among the grasses and gentians of glacial meadows, in craggy garden nooks full of nature's darlings. Climb the mountains and get their good tidings. Nature's peace will flow into you as sunshine flows into trees. The winds will blow their own freshness into you, and the storms their energy, while cares will drop off like autumn leaves. As age comes on, one source of enjoyment after another is closed, but nature's sources never fail.
So we need this connection to the creation as we more and more live in the shopping malls and the suburbs and our mega churches. You know, have we walled ourselves off from part of what God is speaking to us?
You just have to have a little bit of self-discipline, almost, to take the time out of your busy schedule to just really appreciate and just slow yourself down and become silent and just listen and look around. And you have to actively be seeking out God and listening for God when you're out in the wilderness. You know, if you've got your headphones in and you're talking on your cell phone or things, you're not gonna find God out here. You really have to be able to quiet your heart and your mind and everything and just really appreciate what's out here.
John Muir said, everyone needs beauty as well as bread. Places to play in and places to pray in. And I think that sums up what wilderness can be for us. It can be recreational, it can be a place of adventure. I think some of my most adventurous moments in life have been on the peaks of the Sierra and the Cascades and in Alaska. But some of the moments in my life where I've felt closest to God have been quiet moments in the wilderness as well. And I think it offers both to us. I like that word dwell. We don't do a lot of dwelling. We do a lot of driving about, helter-skelter, being nowhere very long. See, the idea of being somewhere for a while and soaking it in, I think is good for all of us.
Admittedly, we don't all have the means or opportunity to experience the wilderness of Alaska, or even a visit to some of our state or national parks. But the principle of the wilderness and what solitude and wonder can renew in us is so important that it's worth doing whatever we can, wherever we can, even if it's to pause and to observe a tree or a leaf or a single flower. to be reminded in that moment of the Creator who reveals himself in the wonder of the wilderness.